Welcome to footpoweredmachinery.com for another interesting video on foot-powered machinery. Hi everybody, today we'd like to share with you this fully and authentically restored Crescent 20-inch foot-powered bandsaw. And yes, you heard right, it is fully foot-powered. The Crescent Machine Company of Latonia, Ohio began in the late 1890s and made a line of industrial woodworking machinery until 1945, when it was sold and ultimately became part of the Rockwell Manufacturing Company. Crescent is perhaps best known for its line of bandsaws, of which this C-frame one is a fine example. They offered it in a foot-powered version in both 20 and 26-inch sizes. The next thing I'll show you is a copy of a catalog cut from the early 1900s showing this saw. In 1902, it cost $60 and weighed 400 pounds for shipping. Here you have a shot from the other side, and you can see the big gear, which is on the drive shaft coming off of the pedals, and then the small gear is on the shaft that has the lower pulley on it. This results in the maximum speed of the bandsaw. Complete foot-powered machinery such as this fully restored bandsaw is very hard to find today. Most were either scrapped and wore metal drives, or like this one when found, had been converted to an electric motor. As a result, all the foot-powered parts like the gears, the pitman arms, the pillow blocks, and the pedals had all been discarded. So where do you start and what do you have to do if you want a foot-powered bandsaw to add to a collection of foot-powered machinery? And no, I don't think this is a practical machine for a woodworking shop. It's just for collectors. First, you need to find one that was foot-powered at least at one time, as it differed from those made for line shaft power. The biggest difference is the lower wheel was much heavier than the top wheel and resulted in being a flywheel for the machine. Here is the saw as found. Note the motor drive on the floor, the heavier lower wheel, and a newer plywood tabletop. Since there's no source for the missing parts that I'm aware of, I needed to find an original one that is still complete so I could take pictures and make measured drawings. With a little more detective work, was able to find a complete one at the Portersville, Pennsylvania Steam Showgrounds. At the Portersville Showgrounds, made sketches and took notes and took a lot of pictures so I would be able to then make the patterns for the parts to be cast that were missing. From those drawings, patterns were made that could be sent off to the foundries for casting. From these patterns, the foundry, in this case Cattail, can cast the parts in gray or cast iron that can then be machined. These early machines used Babbitt bearings, so after the pillow block was machined, the Babbitt had to be poured and then scraped. You may be able to see the Babbitt to the left of the shaft. This is after the big gear was removed. Here's some shots coming up of the Babbitt pouring process. Pouring Babbitt is not rocket science. To pour the bearings in the rear pillar block, we needed to support the shaft in the center and create dams to keep the hot liquid Babbitt from running out. The main thing is to be very careful, as you can get severely burned doing this. There are a number of videos, including some by Keith Rucker, on ways to work with Babbitt. One of the biggest challenges in the restoration was getting the teeth in the gear blanks cut, primarily the big gear. To minimize tooth wear, Crescent made the big gear with 127 teeth, yes, 127, and the small gear with 64 teeth. You can do the math on how many revolutions it will take to make the same teeth match exactly. To deal with the indexing of 127 tooth gear for cutting, I turned to a company that had a CNC water jet, and they cut the gear blanks like magic. Here you see a raw gear blank on the left, you see the finished product in the middle, and on the right you see the part that was cut off by the water jet, like magic. This machine has a number of interesting parts and pieces. The pedals shown here weigh a total of about 50 pounds and have a unique top piece much like the top of a sandal. The saw was designed to be operated from a stool with both feet or standing up on either foot. There is not much room, especially for a man's boot, but these dimensions were taken from the original saw. Crescent stamped the serial number in their machines. This one is 11,641, which would date it to about 1907. Wood tables were used on these early machines. These tended to come apart and generally got abused. When found, this machine did not have either the main or the auxiliary table. To make this one, we found an original on an earlier two-piece Crescent badged silver foot-powered bandsaw and used that as a pattern for the red oak table. The pitman arms on the original were made of hard maple and painted, so to be authentic, I painted these beautiful hard maple ones gray as well. Boy, did that hurt. Blade guides are somewhat basic on these older machines. No cool blocks for sure. In these early machines, the lower blade guide was simply a square block of maple with a slot cut in it. And finally, the blade guard was a simple piece of wood. The blade itself was 10 feet 1 inch long, which required them to be custom made. We added a set of new rubber tires to both wheels, which completed the project. So you ask, how well does it work? Well, let's give it a try and see. So there you have it, folks. As with any true restoration, it might be best described as a labor of love. This one entailed a lot of travel, time, effort, and support from a number of family, friends, and companies. Credits are coming up next on the companies and the people who were involved in this restoration. We plan additional foot-powered videos in the near future, and we'll post them for you to look at. We thank you for being a part of this, and until next time, keep on peddling. Here are some of the individuals and companies that were involved in this project. And if you're interested in antique and traditional tools, please check out MWTCA at www.mwtca.org. And to find out more about foot-powered machinery, please check us out at www.footpoweredmachinery.com. Always a work in process.